Okay, today we're in Lovell Canyon again and working our way up the Wilson Ridge. We're starting out at the intersection of Lovell Canyon Road. There's the beast. Lovell Canyon Road and Lovell Summit Road goes up in this direction. And this is going to take us to the trailhead for Lovell Canyon Trail. There's the Torino Ranch Children's Camp, and we've been working our way up the Wilson Ridge. This is an approach ridge that we've taken to what I call the Wilson Ridge High Point, South High Point. And last time we took that up toward Harris Mountain, didn't make it to Harris Mountain, but today, and we did a loop. It was a really cool loop down into Lovell Canyon and then hit the Lovell Canyon Trail and came back here to this point. Today, we're going to take the Lovell Canyon Trail, go up Lovell Summit Road for about a quarter mile, hit the trailhead, take Lovell Canyon Trail, descend into Lovell Canyon at a higher point, and then ascend to the Wilson Ridge and see how far we can get toward the summit of Harris Mountain. There's Harris Mountain. And by the way, here's Griffith Peak. They're both at the high end, the summit of Lovell Canyon. So anyway, yeah, we're going to take the Wilson Ridge up to Harris Mountain. It's going to be 110 degrees in Las Vegas today. So we're also testing temperature and seeing what it is up here. The rule of thumb that I've found is that for every 1,000 feet, you lose 5 degrees. So right now it's 56 degrees. We're at about 5,800 feet, down 2,000 feet in the Las Vegas Valley. When I left, it was 84 degrees. So hopefully the only time that we're going to hit a higher temperature than in the 70s should be on the way down, and then we'll be going downhill and the temperature won't be so bad. I don't think we're going to get anything more than the mid 80s, and that'll be downhill on the way back. So that's the theory. Let's see what happens. There's been a lot of water in just in the spring mountains, a lot of snow this past winter. And normally you're not going to see streams like this flowing through Lovell Canyon. At this point, it's usually all bone dry, but take a look at this. Just amazing. So today, yeah, we're going to be seeing Lovell Canyon at its very most beautiful, best, with wildflowers and flowing water. Okay, onward. Nice camping area up here, 1/4 mile up Lovell Summit Road. And this is where we're going to find the trailhead for Lovell Canyon Trail. But just wanted to mention, Lovell Canyon is truly a car camper's paradise. There are pull-out spots for cars, tents, RVs, lots of different possibilities here, no matter what kind of vehicle you have. And I don't believe you need a reservation. And I don't believe there's a fee. It's pretty much first come, first serve. And here we are approaching Lovell Canyon Trailhead. You'll be here on the right. And here we are. So now we head up Lovell Canyon Trail, and we're going to the base of Lovell Canyon, then cross it and find a way up to the Wilson Ridge and Harris Mountain. And by the way, as you can see, there are some nice trails in this canyon. Besides the Lovell Canyon Trail, there's a loop trail, there's Schaefer Springs Loop, and Griffith Shadow Loop. And these distances you see are distances to the beginning of those loops. The loops are actually a lot longer. But anyway, yeah, lots of beautiful possibilities here in Lovell Canyon. Onward. Okay, here's a great preview of what we're hoping to do today. Here you see the Wilson Ridge. There's the Wilson Ridge. There's Harris Mountain. A saddle up to Griffith Peak. We're not going to do all that today, but now that, and then Lovell Canyon is below here. So that's just to give you some bearing of where we are. Now, there is the Wilson Ridge South High Point. We've ascended an approach ridge previously from the upper end of Lovell Canyon Road to this high point. And we've continued on a portion of the Wilson Ridge north toward Harris Mountain to somewhere in, let's say, this vicinity here. And then we descended back into Lovell Canyon. That was the Lovell Canyon Loop. We reconnected with the Lovell Canyon Trail. Okay, what we're going to do today is we're heading down the Lovell Canyon Trail, and we're going to continue the progress up the Wilson Ridge on up to Harris Mountain. And a lot of elevation gain. Between the gain and loss that we're going to experience on the way, we're probably looking in the area of 5,000 to 6,000 feet. In fact, the gain itself is close to 5,000 feet. And yet, as you can see, we've got to descend into Lovell Canyon. So that's where you hit the 6,000 feet. Now, notice Harris Mountain. I want you to notice a line, a straight line, just below the summit of Harris Mountain and along the Wilson Ridge. I don't know if it's going to be too visible. There we go. You see that straight line? That line is Harris Mountain Road. And we may actually try to summit the Wilson Ridge at the end of Harris Mountain Road and then continue up. And then on the way back, come down the Wilson Ridge to the point where we reached last time, so we can complete the Wilson Ridge, at least this portion between the southern high point and Harris Mountain. So that's the large view of what we're going to do. First thing we need to do now is descend on the Lovell Canyon Trail into Lovell Canyon, somewhere down around this area, and then look for a route up to the Wilson Ridge. So there you have the preview of today's adventure. Okay, I've got an eye on the ascent ridge to Wilson Ridge, the approach ridge, and just take a look here. You see Harris Mountain on the left, and potentially the approach ridge would be right up this ridge to this high point. Take a left and continue on up to Harris Mountain. So we just need to get to the base of that approach ridge. Still on the Lovell Canyon Trail. So we've got some healthy descent followed by ascent. Okay, here's the trail junction where we're going to head down to the right, Lovell Canyon Trail. Now, if we wanted to hit the Sexton Ridge, which is the ridge on the opposite side of Lovell Canyon, it's on the west side. Wilson Ridge is on the east side. If we wanted to hit Sexton Ridge, what we would do is take Griffith Shadow Loop as far as we could go on the loop to the highest point, and then catch the Sexton Ridge and head up to Griffith Peak. And you'll see on Las Vegas area trails where we have done that and basically covered everything but about 1,000 feet on Sexton Ridge. Okay, but instead today we are on the Wilson Ridge, and we're heading for the Wilson Ridge. And so that means we're taking the Lovell Canyon Trail down in this direction to the base of Lovell Canyon, and then crossing the canyon and finding a ridge that will ascend to the Wilson Ridge, which you can see in the distance there. Here we go. Okay, here's an important view. Last time when I did the Wilson Ridge Lovell Canyon loop, I made it to this point on the Wilson Ridge, and you'll remember, if you see that video, there were 3 descent ridges. All of them work, but I came up against some little bit of an issue on the, let's see. Yeah. Okay. 3 descent ridges. Here's the northernmost. Here's the mid descent ridge. And here is the south descent ridge. What I did is I headed down the mid descent ridge a little bit until I hit some ledges, which later I found when I was looking at it from the south descent ridge were not really that bad. So either of these 3 ridges would work for a descent or an ascent to Lovell Canyon. But I went back to the south descent ridge and descended down that ridge, basically in the direction you're looking there, to the base of Lovell Canyon. So I could actually ascend either of those ridges today, or I could go, I'm going to try to see how far I can go up the canyon before ascending to the Wilson Ridge. We'll see. Okay, another preview as I'm figuring out what to do here. I know that, well, there below us is Lovell Canyon. And then you've got Griffith Peak on the left and Harris Mountain on the right. Let's zoom in on Harris Mountain. And you see that straight line below the summit? That's Harris Mountain Road. We want to summit probably this ridge here. If we can get to that ridge without too much brush barrier in the way, we don't know. But I know we want to circle around the left side of this little rocky bluff in the foreground, circle around the left side and continue up the canyon as far as we can. Now there's a lot of brush in this canyon, and there's actually a pretty healthy stream due to all the rain and the snow this past winter. And progress through the base of the canyon may mean a lot of brush, navigating a lot of brush. So if it looks like it's just too brushy down there, what I'll do is I'll ascend earlier to the summit of the Wilson Ridge somewhere, maybe in this direction. And again, the three, well, I'm not even sure I can see those three ridges that we looked at last time, at least not from this direction. Maybe this is the South Ridge, and you can see it winding down in this direction. Yeah, I think that's it. And then this is the Mid Ridge, and this is the North Ridge. Those are three descent ridges that you can see from the upper portion on the page on Las Vegas Area Trails on the Lovell Canyon Wilson Ridge, or Wilson Ridge Lovell Canyon Loop. Okay, so onward with a hopeful goal, getting as far as we can toward the summit of Harris Mountain. Okay, we've hit the base of Lovell Canyon, and there was a sign just a little ways back pointing to Griffith Shadow Loop in this direction, crossing the canyon. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're crossing the canyon and taking the lower canyon base part of Griffith Shadow Loop, and the idea is get as far up the canyon as we can before we ascend to the Wilson Ridge and Harris Mountain. That's the challenge. And you can see why we don't want to spend a whole lot of time in the base of the canyon. Not only do we have a whole lot of brush, and this, by the way, is a trail. Yeah, you can see it's really choked. Not only do we have a lot of brush, but I don't know if you can hear them, but there are a lot of bugs, flies, gnats, mosquitoes. Okay, so there you have it, Lovell Canyon. Now let's cross and see how far upward we can ascend without getting too bogged down in the brush. Well, I just met a couple people who have tried a few of the Las Vegas Area Trails adventures and had a lot of fun. Sexton Ridge and some on the Wilson Ridge, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hey, good morning. I'm Steven, and this is Halima.
Hey, yeah, we're big fans of David's channels on YouTube. because of his videos, I tried some of the trail that he tried. Like I tried one time to go to the Saxon Bridge, but I couldn't make it far. I only did like 10.5 miles round trip. And last week I tried the Wilson Ridge. And next time I'm going to do what he did, you know, like the Wilson South approach, doing the loop. So yeah, his channels on YouTube very informative, and he's very detail oriented, so it's very easy to follow and to understand. And yeah, we big fans.
Yeah,
We watch.
really enjoy the videos.
Yes. So it's really a nice surprise to actually bump into you this morning. We never thought we would see you. So it's a nice surprise.
Definitely good to meet both of you. And we're here in Lovell Canyon today. Las Vegas temperatures expected to be 110 degrees. And so who knows what we're going to experience before the end of the day. But so good to meet both of you.
Yeah, same here.
So have fun hiking and enjoying the wilderness.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Same to you.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, here we are on what maybe is a trail. It's hard to tell where the exact trail is, but what I'm going to do is continue across the canyon. I think I found a trail, very faint trail on the far side that continues upward. If I can't find that trail, then it's just going to be a matter of slogging through this brush until I reach a point where I can ascend the Wilson Ridge toward Harris Mountain. And then here's where we are in the middle of Lovell Canyon. And wow, if that's not a trail, I don't know what is. So that may be the trail I want to connect with and see how far up we can continue up the canyon. What we're looking for is Griffith Shadow Loop Trail that will hopefully give us a little boost as we try to avoid this brush. Okay, there may be a trail up here to my right, but wow, getting there looks pretty difficult. So what I'm going to do is continue up this little rocky way and round this bluff and be looking for a way up the Wilson Ridge. Hopefully when we get around the bluff, we will see some possibilities. Look at all the flowers here. This is just so incredible. So that's the good side of the brush. And wow, there is looks almost like a cairn up here. So, you know, I guess the best thing at this point is just to wing it and try to stay where the brush is thinnest. And by the way, here's a little stream that appears, disappears, reappears. There are a few streams flowing through Lovell Canyon at this point, and it's very rare for it's basically the first weekend in July. So far, not too bad. Now, I don't want to jinx it, but so far I've been able to stay with the rocky band here, that the rocks are just too thick for brush to grow. It's not a very wide band, but yeah, it's working right now. And then, of course, there's the direction we're headed. And we need to wind our way over to an approach ridge, but I see that this canyon winds around, and hopefully I'll be able to take this to the base of one of the approach ridges for the Wilson Ridge and Harris Mountain. It's a shady little spot here, and this is a good place to put on my sage guards. And here they are, very unsophisticated, but you can see the two black knee braces that hold the bottom portion of some pants that I cut. So they hold them on my legs, and as you can see, what we're going through here is potentially death by 1,000 cuts. And it's going to be that way up to the Wilson Ridge. So these sage guards are really essential. I like to, keep myself in running shorts to keep cool, especially on this day where it's really starting to heat up. And so the sage guards help me be protected, plus stay cool. I don't have to wear long pants. Okay, let's put them on, then I'll show you. Okay, here are the sage guards installed. You see the knee brace holding up the lower pant legs, and yeah, definitely not going to win any beauty contest, but on the other hand, boy, they really work. So now we can continue upward with a little more confidence that we're not going to get slashed to death by the brush. Okay, as you can see, the going has not been really bad. There has been a way through the brush and between all the brush, and when I actually have to go into brush, I have my sage guards, so that works. So, and you can see that this is winding around toward Harris Mountain, and you can see Harris Mountain Road, that straight line below. So what I'd like to do is get around this little cone head hill and take a left around the hill, and then begin to wind my way toward the Wilson Ridge. So let's just see how that little plan goes. Okay, we've reached a little divide, and this right branch is looking like it's leading toward the ridges, the approach ridges that I need. And so I'm going to take this right branch, even though it looks a little more narrow and choked up, but I think we'll still be able to use it. And again, I need to ascend this ridge to get up there, and then turn toward Harris Mountain, or maybe the next ridge over. But you can see where Harris Mountain Road is. See the line of Harris Mountain Road. And so that's where we begin the final ascent to Harris Mountain. So far things are looking good today. This wash that I've been on is very passable. Not a problem so far. But as you can see, there's brush all around. So it becomes a little more of a challenge. So let's get over to the base of those approach ridges for the Wilson Ridge and ascend out of this lower area. Another reason to ascend is that it's starting to heat up here. I can feel the heat rising. I don't have I don't have my thermometer watch working right now, but I need to get up that ridge to get some relief from the heat. Okay, onward. Okay, things are looking really good. There's been some navigational issues here in the wash between brush and larger rocks, and going through brush with larger rocks beneath that you cannot see, but nothing really bad. And here we're looking at Harris Mountain, and you can see the line of Harris Mountain Road, and it ends just on the other side of this high point ahead. And what we're going to do is there's an approach to the high point right ahead here. Looks like a really nice approach ridge. And after ascending that, reaching that point, then a left, and it should be much easier to head over to the connection with Harris Mountain Road. And then head on up to Harris Mountain Summit. And as you can see, at least right now in the wash, it's looking like between here and the base of that approach ridge, it looks pretty wide open. It's been fairly easy going. I've had more challenging navigational experiences than this. Nice breeze blowing upward, so that helps. Temperature isn't horrible just yet. I'd say we might be high 70s, low 80s. And by the time we get up the Wilson Ridge, we'll be back down to in the 70s. That's the hope. We'll see what actually happens. Okay, so onward and upward. Okay, where are we? We are at the base of the approach ridge that I identified earlier. Wasn't too hard getting here. There's Griffith Peak. Here's upper Lovell Canyon. Then you can see to the right and down from Griffith Peak, there's the saddle, and you can see the Harris Griffith circuit on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. That will take you on a circuit from Harris to Griffith and then back to the south trailhead below or above Charleston Village. Okay, now here is Lovell Canyon. Just want to give you an idea where we are. You can see the kind of rock wall at the base on the west side of Lovell Canyon. Just across from us. That's a good indicator. And there's Potosi Mountain to the south. Always good to have all the bearings. So no matter where you are, you know how to get where you want to go without getting lost. And yeah, it almost looks like there's a little trail here if you look very carefully. But this is the base of that approach ridge I identified earlier. So you can't really see the ridge from here. We're at the base, so we'll ascend a little bit, and as we ascend, you'll get a much better view of this ridge, and eventually you'll know whether I chose the best ridge or not. But I think this ridge will do it. So let's go ahead and head up what looks like a little trail. And wouldn't it be great if that just continued all the way up to the summit of the Wilson Ridge. And by the way, we're looking at about 3,600 feet straight up in order to reach Harris Mountain from this point. Okay, we've ascended a couple hundred feet and things are looking a little more familiar here. What we see along the top of the Wilson Ridge, that right there, I believe, is the descent ridge I took on the Wilson Ridge Lovell Canyon Loop. So yeah, it's good to see familiar landmarks. And we're heading up to that high point. It's kind of a plateau up there. So anywhere we can ascend that will do. And then we take a left and we should hit Harris Mountain Road. And I don't know if I dare call it a trail, but it almost seems like there's a little pathway up this ridge, which tends to prove that it may be the ridge of choice for people who have been here before. And I don't know, you look carefully, you might see a little pathway going down straight in the center of the video. You got to look carefully, but you want to be able to pick those kinds of pathways out because they'll save you a lot of brush, and what you're doing is learning from people who have gone before what may be a good approach route through the wilderness. So who knows? Let's continue on up, and we're going to either hit this high point or hit the plateau just a little to the left of that. And then at the end of that plateau, we should be pretty much at Harris Mountain Road. So let's continue upward another 1,500 feet to get to the summit of the Wilson Ridge here. And by the way, somewhere up in this area right here is where I normally summit Sexton Ridge and then continue up the ridge till my energy runs out toward Griffith Peak at the summit. And I have descended those two slopes to the left of Griffith Peak and a little further, and I've ascended almost to that same point. I think there's a couple thousand feet maybe at the most that I have not yet done on Sexton Ridge. So at some point we'll do it. Complete the ridge. Continuing to ascend this ridge, and it looks like there's a kind of summit up ahead. They could put me on the upper spine of the Wilson Ridge, which is right up there. And then you can see how it continues on to connect with Harris Mountain Road about this point, and then on up to Harris Mountain Summit. And just to take a larger look at things. Here you can see back down the Wilson Ridge to where I am. And so, yeah, that would be nice if that puts me on top of the Wilson Ridge. I think I've got about 3,000 more feet to ascend before I get to Harris Mountain Summit. But maybe, I don't know, 800 feet to get to the summit of the Wilson Ridge. And things should get a little less steep at that point. And then looking down south across the Wilson Ridge, and you can see those descent ridges that we looked at. Took one of them, the far one, on the Wilson Ridge Lovell Canyon Loop adventure, and then down into Lovell Canyon, then around and up Sexton Ridge, to Griffith Peak. So there you see the whole story of where we are. So let's go ahead and ascend this ridge. Looks like there are a few rocky outcrops near the top, but they also look like there's some pretty easy few ways to navigate around and through them. Okay, onward. Let's check in again. There's Lovell Canyon below. You can see how far below it is. We'll just trace the canyon. There you go, all the way to the summit of the canyon, Griffith Peak, down Sexton Ridge, and you can see the ridge line, then back down the canyon, and then here's the incline that we looked at from below. A little weaving around, but when you weave around, you're actually creating switchbacks, which makes it a little easier. So trees are no problem, obstacles are no problem so far. And then we're close to the summit of this little ridge, and hopefully this approach ridge will lead us, that summit that you just saw will be up on the Wilson Ridge, and it's not a false summit. We'll see. Okay, onward. Well, there's a brief shot of a deer. Okay, there's a little bit of a head wall ahead here. And so we'll see if we can weave between the ledges. I think that over to the right and then on up might be a way to go. We shall see. But in the meantime, let's take a look at where we are. There you can see upper Lovell Canyon, the canyon below, and all the way down to Potosi Mountain. In the meantime, something else that's visible now is the Wilson Ridge South High Point, right up there. We'll see it better when we get to the top of this current rise. And there are the three ridges from the Wilson Ridge Lovell Canyon circuit. This was the North Ridge, then there was a Middle Ridge, and then the South Ridge, which we descended back into Lovell Canyon. But hopefully we'll get much better views of all this when we get to the top of this rise ahead. Well, there was some class 3 over this head wall, but not really bad. There were always gradual ledges, passageways that I could take. So no, it wasn't a showstopper. Anyway, yeah, here we are. Up near the summit. We're above the head wall. And by the summit, I don't mean Harris Mountain, which is over here. But I mean the Wilson Ridge, which is right up ahead. We have about, I don't know, 300 more feet to get to the summit of the Wilson Ridge. And then, as you can see, it's just a matter of continuing along the summit of the ridge over to Harris Mountain. So we may have the steepest, hardest part complete. We do have another, I don't know, a couple thousand feet. It doesn't look like much, but yeah, there's a couple thousand feet between us and summit of Harris Mountain. Okay, onward. Well, we've summited the Wilson Ridge. So we're back on the Wilson Ridge, and oh, there's a lot that you can see. Sheep Range, the Angel Peak, Harris Mountain. We'll look at all those. But I just wanted to show at this point that there's a little trail up here. What are the chances? So I'm going to take this trail for a while. It's a refresher after having traversed wilderness for so long today. There you can see down into Lovell Canyon. And here is that ridge that I ascended. And here's an interesting thing. Here is the tip of Mount Wilson. We're about at 8,000 feet. 110 degrees in Las Vegas. And up here, I don't have my thermometer out, but I'm going to predict, I'm going to just estimate that we're around 70 degrees. Really nice. Okay, let's continue on and we'll get a better viewpoint. Okay, here's that point I promised for the 360 degree view. And we're looking straight up the Wilson Ridge at Harris Mountain Summit. It's the one to the right. The other one's a kind of a false summit, I think. We don't know. We'll find out. Hopefully we get there today. And then heading around clockwise, there you can see Harris Mountain Road. We're almost at the crossing. In fact, the crossing of Harris Mountain Road is right after this little high point. And then over here, Angel Peak. And then in this direction, of course, Kyle Canyon is below us. There's the Sheep Range. And then panning over to Fossil Ridge and Gas Peak, that pointy little peak. Almost directly above Centennial Hills, where I live. Sure doesn't seem as long in a straight line as it is when you're driving all over the place through various roads and canyons. Anyway, okay, La Madre Mountains. And there's La Madre on the left, El Padre on the right, and then El Bastardo. Okay, looking along the Wilson Ridge. There's the ridge to the Wilson Ridge South High Point. And then over here, a few more of the Rainbow Mountains. There is Bridge Mountain. White Rock Mountain would be to the left. And then Rainbow Mountain and Mount Wilson. Mount Wilson, Rainbow Mountain, Bridge Mountain, White Rock Mountain. You can see the tip of it. And then there's Potosi Mountain. Lovell Canyon below us. And now you're in the Griffith Shadow Loop area. And then we have the Ascent Ridge to Sexton Ridge. And then there we are on Sexton Ridge, heading up to Griffith Peak. And go to LasVegasAreaTrails.com. Put all these landmarks that I've mentioned, put them into the search box, and there will be a page on them. There's Griffith Peak. And then there's the saddle. And then over to Harris Mountain again, where we began. Okay, let's continue on. Well, definitely someone has put some work into this trail. It's very faint, and probably one person a year uses it. I'm the one for this year. Look at the flowers, pretty cool. But you can see where someone has taken the trouble to line up all these rocks as the trail passes on this side of this little ledge. So yeah, we'll continue on this trail. It's pretty decent, and we continue up, and then we'll be looking down at Harris Mountain Road. And by the way, there's Harris Mountain Road below us. Okay, continuing upward. Okay, continuing along what we'll call the Wilson Ridge Trail. And this was an unexpected surprise. Really makes going a lot easier. But you got to get up onto the Wilson Ridge to get onto this trail. Maybe, just maybe, this will lead to the Harris Mountain Summit Trail. That would be nice. We'll find out. And that looks like a little spot where an animal slept last night. We don't know, but that's what those spots look like. Could be a deer. I saw a deer earlier in the distance. They got to sleep somewhere. Okay, so take a look at this. We're coming up on Harris Mountain Road, and just across the road is a trail heading up to Harris Mountain. So yeah, that is really nice. Okay, so onward. And there is Harris Mountain Road directly below us, and the trail heading upward toward Harris Mountain. But what do you know? Here we are at the official Harris Mountain trailhead on Harris Mountain Road. We didn't need four-wheel drive. We had two-leg drive from the Lovell Canyon trailhead to this point. But yeah, if you got four-wheel drive, there's Harris Mountain Road. Knock yourself out. Go for it. It's not horrible on a four-wheel drive. I don't think I'd take it on a two-wheel drive. So let's take a look at what we've got here. Griffith Peak Trailhead. Interesting. So I think it'll go to Harris Mountain too. Let's hope. And then here's little information. You can pause the video on the area. Okay, this is funny. Within about 20 feet of the of that Griffith Peak trailhead, I lost the trail. And I think the way it goes is that straight line along the base of the summit of Harris Mountain is the Griffith Peak Trail. And it takes you around to the saddle and then up to Griffith Peak. On the other hand, if you're going to Harris Mountain, this is the best way. Just continue up the ridge. It's a little more challenging as far as navigation, as you can see, but yeah, there's a burn area here to navigate. However, just stay on the ridge, head up the ridge, and you're heading to Harris Mountain. So I think that's the difference between the two trails. And then looking down, there is the trailhead below. There we go. And Harris Mountain Road. So yeah, and then there's the Wilson Ridge. We'll get better views of the Wilson Ridge as we ascend higher on this ridge toward Harris Mountain. But for now, here's where we are. And my strategy here is just going to be to head up this ridge that works its way over to Harris Mountain. Okay, we're at the next rise. Let's look around and see what we can see. Now, I do not think that's Harris Mountain. I think Harris Mountain is behind that pointy peak. But we'll find out when we get up there. Let's look around clockwise. Sheep Range, Kyle Canyon, Las Vegas Valley is down there, La Madre Mountains, Wilson Ridge, and the South High Point. Through the trees. We'll get a better look at that later. In fact, let's just ascend to this little high point. Yeah, that works. And there you can see all the way over to the Wilson Ridge South High Point. Then looking down Lovell Canyon toward Potosi Mountain. Moving up Lovell Canyon. And we've already pointed out Sexton Ridge, Griffith Peak. And then we're back here. So, yeah, looking for that route that's going to take us up to the summit of Harris Mountain. And I'm thinking we might find a trail. That'd make things a lot easier. No promises. And there's the direction toward Harris Mountain. Okay, here's another checkpoint. I believe I've got about 1,000 feet left to summit Harris Mountain. And you see two cone head peaks ahead of me. The one in the background may be Harris Mountain. If it's not, it's pretty darn close. Let's look around counterclockwise. Look at this. There is Lee Peak. That was Lee Peak, Charleston Peak, and then down and up the saddle between Harris and Griffith Peak is Griffith Peak. And then down Sexton Ridge. And to give you an idea what I have not yet done on Sexton Ridge, it's actually a very small section. It's the section between this and this. So there it is. It's about 1,000 to 2,000 feet. I've descended from Griffith Peak I've descended on Sexton Ridge from Griffith Peak down to this point. I have ascended Sexton Ridge up to about this point. So as you can see, it's just that little section that I have not yet done. So I've pretty much done Sexton Ridge. Yeah, let's say we've done it. We may have to do the same thing with Harris Mountain. Descend from the other side to make up for what I missed on the way up today. I don't know. Maybe I'll get to the summit of Harris Mountain. The great thing about it is that once I get up there, it is literally downhill all the way down into Lovell Canyon. But I have a turnaround point, so I don't finish in the dark. And that pretty much, let's see. Well, I've got to be down, let's see, 3 o'clock is my turnaround point. It is now 1:15. So 3 o'clock to get all the way down to the trailhead is going to be pretty ambitious. Okay. Anyway, yeah. And there you can see Sheep Range. Part of the Las Vegas Valley behind the La Madre Mountains. And then the Wilson Ridge all the way up to the south high point, right in the center there. So that's where we are right now. Very beautiful up here, and it's cool compared to 110 degrees Las Vegas. I think we are under 80 degrees here. I would estimate we're about 75. Another waypoint. And yeah, if I can get around the edge of this cone, get around the left edge, we might be able to make it. We'll see, because on the other side is the saddle. the Griffith Harris saddle. And you see the saddle descending and then ascending up to Griffith. Sexton Ridge. Lovell Canyon. Potosi Mountain. Rainbow Mountains. Wilson on the right, Rainbow Mountain, and yeah, there's Wilson. Wilson on the right, Rainbow Mountain, and Bridge Mountain, and then White Rock Mountain, all the way to the left. And then there's the Wilson Ridge South High Point, right in the center. And this is the reason that I have a turnaround point, because my destination to get back is right down there. Okay, we'll see how far we get. My turnaround point is in about an hour and 20 minutes. We might make it. We might at least get close, but no promises. In fact, I might go around the right side of this cone. I don't know at this point. It just depends. It looks like the right side is a little more gradual, less avalanche slopey. So we'll see. Time to check in again. It's about 800 feet below Harris Mountain. And here is a good shot of the Wilson Ridge. Straight down to this point, over along this way, crosses Harris Mountain Road, ascends a little bit, and then continues along the tree line up to the Wilson Ridge South High Point. So that's the Wilson Ridge from where we are right now to the South High Point. And here you can see the large view. Now the Rainbow Mountains are coming into view much better. There's White Rock Mountain on the left, Bridge Mountain in the center, Rainbow Mountain to the right, and to the right of that, Mount Wilson. And then Lovell Canyon to our start point. That is going to be one long haul, but it'll be downhill all the way. And as you can see, we're weaving our way around amongst the burned out trees to the right side of this Conehead Hill. that we saw from below. Just a minute. There we go. Not on a very secure foundation here. Okay, so there you have it. Well, good news. There is Harris Mountain Summit. Right ahead. And I'm just 40 minutes from my turnaround point. So yeah, I'm going to keep going. And I bet I'm going to be pretty close to the summit by the turnaround point. We shall see. And then there is the ridge going down. And if you take that ridge downward, you're going to end up at the Fletcher Canyon trailhead, or the escarpment loop. Harris Mountain Summit straight ahead. So, regardless of turnaround point, I still have some time. Regardless of the turnaround point though, I'm going to be at the top of that hill ahead, which is Harris Mountain Summit. Wilson Ridge to the high point, and then here White Rock Mountain, Bridge Mountain, Rainbow Mountain, and Mount Wilson. La Madre Mountains, Las Vegas Valley down below. La Madre on the left, El Padre on the right. El Bastardo. And then, yeah, Red Rock Park is below. And then here is Harris Springs Road down in Kyle Canyon. Mountain Mahogany. Pinyon Pines. Harris Mountain Summit, let's go there. Harris Mountain Summit. Goal achieved. From the Lovell Canyon trailhead to the Lovell Canyon Trail. Here we are on Harris Mountain. Okay, let's look around. We're like, what is it? 6 minutes before our turnaround point. So we need to hightail it back. But before we do that, and we got a long ways to go. Before we do that, let's just take a quick look around. There's Griffith Peak. Let's see if we can get the Kyle Canyon south rim here. Yeah, there you have it from Griffith Peak along the south rim. See, there's a lot of snow on that south rim. Charleston Peak. And yeah, if you are on the north side of Charleston Peak on the North Loop Trail, I think there's still some pretty treacherous snow-filled crossings. If I were doing Charleston Peak, what I would do would be take the South Loop Trail out and back. And there is Charleston Village below. Lee Peak. North rim of Kyle Canyon. Mummy Mountain. Fletcher Peak. And then on down you can see there's Angel Peak. So, what we're going to do, so beautiful up here. What we're going to do is refuel and then head back down. We got a good section of the Wilson Ridge, about 7 miles, downhill all the way, but then we need to descend into Lovell Canyon, cross the canyon, and then find Lovell Canyon Trail and return by the trail, all before dark. So, yeah. I wouldn't bet on this if I were betting. I don't know if we'll make it by dark, but we're going to give it our best shot. And by the way, here is, let's see if we can nail that. There it is. Harris Mountain Road. And then there's the Wilson Ridge. And we'll probably find that same descent point that we used last week. I'm not sure. It depends on what mood I'm in when I get close to the descent point. Okay. Awesome adventure. By the way, yeah. There's a view into the northern Las Vegas Valley. And you can see Harris Springs Road, which eventually connects with Kyle Canyon Road. It'd actually be nice to just be heading down to the Fletcher Canyon Trailhead, which is right down below there. However, my car's down a little beyond the Lovell Canyon Trailhead. So, yeah, the short route down is not going to happen today. So, refuel and then hightail it down. But what a day. On Harris Mountain Summit, I call this next little segment Invasion of the Ladybugs. Yeah, they are all over this summit. This must be part of their migratory pattern. Okay, back to the break. By the way, here's proof that I'm not allergic to pine dust, pollen. This backpack should be black. Oh, there's a little friend. They're moving in. Anyway, the backpack should be black, and you can see the yellow on it. That is pollen from pine trees. And as I pass under the pine trees, sometimes there's just a cloud of yellow. I haven't had any reactions, so that is a blessing. Okay, heading down. Back down, and let's just go ahead and do a summary of this downward journey. We'll be heading down the Wilson Ridge. We're at the top of the Wilson Ridge right now at Harris Mountain. We'll be heading down the Wilson Ridge and then finding a descent ridge into Lovell Canyon, and then trying to cross Lovell Canyon and reconnect with the Lovell Canyon Trail before dark. So here we go. By the way, descending and ascending this ridge up to Harris Mountain, the final approach. Circle around the left side as you're heading down. It's actually the east side, away from Lovell Canyon. Circle around that side of the ridge. The west side is very steep, so just circle each of the ridges on the east side, on the left on your way down, the right on your way up. Continuing to wind my way downward and hanging to the upper east edge of each of these ridges on the way down. So yeah, it gets a little crazy up here, but still class 2, but very slick. A lot of loose rock. Okay, onward. Okay, new plan. I think I am going to, rather than take this ridge, it looks like one could almost head down this sort of gully down to Lovell Canyon. So yeah, let's give that a try. Maybe famous last words. Have a few wipeouts because it's very steep and loose rock, but it gets down into the canyon sooner, and then should be easier going all the way to the end. So here we go. Well, so far this seems to be working, as long as it doesn't just start to plummet downward. It does look like it's getting a little steeper as we go over the edge here, but the trees continue all the way down. So my hope is going to be that the trees would not grow on a cliff, but that has been proven wrong in the past. Anyway, yeah, and once I get down below, I think I see the Griffith's Shadow Loop Trail meeting Lovell Canyon below, which puts me on the home stretch for Lovell Canyon Trail. So let's continue downward and just see what happens. Well, so far so good. I'm angling my way down, and hopefully I can land somewhere right down there and then cross over to the other side where there is it's just wider. And so I think the going will be better. So head down here, cross the little saddle, and then head to the other side, and there will be some trail connections down there. At least we won't miss the Lovell Canyon Trail. However, this is getting pretty steep. So we'll see how this little experience goes. It's going to get steeper before we hit the bottom. What do you know? I'm now on the historic Harris Mountain Road. Still need to plummet over the edge here. But this road was being built in the 30s, and the story goes that Roosevelt came to visit the chief engineer, asked him where the road was going. He could not say. And so Roosevelt said, put this project on halt. And I think that actually here is the Griffith Peak Trail. So the question is, how are we going to get down? Pretty steep there. But if I go a little further back up, it looks like there's a more gradual ridge that I could descend. I'm going to do that. That's not too far up, and I like that ridge. So let's do that. And there is where I came down from. Very, very slow going. Maybe as the ridge becomes a little less steep, I can move a little faster. We'll see. So let's head up the Griffith Trail and then turn left and head down that ridge. Okay, this is the place where we turn down. So hopefully we won't plummet too quickly. And we are on the home stretch to getting down to the wash below. And then it's very gradual the rest of the way. So let's go ahead and see what we can do here. Okay, now I'm in a narrow wash. This reminds me of a place I was earlier when I came up from the bottom, and I took a wash kind of like this. There it is going up, only this time, yeah, I stopped somewhere before reaching the bottom. I mean, before reaching the top. And so this will be completing that adventure. And by the way, remember that pollen that was on my backpack? And I was so happy about not being allergic. Well, there are bees here that think I'm a flower. So we'll see if we get to the bottom without them getting mad. Well, that took quite a long time, working my way through that little wash from the road, Harris Mountain Road above. Doesn't look like very far, but wow, it took a long time to get down this far. Now the wash is widening up a bit, which is great, and so progress should be faster. We'll see. Well, we're back on the Lovell Canyon Trail. Finding the trailhead when you're heading down the canyon is a challenge. You've got to watch across the canyon for a sign. And actually, it'll happen right at this rocky outcrop. So when you see that rocky outcrop, little pillar there, you know you've got to cross the canyon, because you had to be on the other side of the canyon in order to have a pathway through all the brush and boulders. So you're coming down the far side of the canyon, but you're watching for that rocky outcrop. And at that point, you cross the canyon and you'll see a sign, trail sign with a lot of different trail directions on it. And that's where you'll connect. Just follow the direction for the Lovell Canyon Trail. Here we are back at the Beast. Yeah, it's dark. People have commented on my zoom, and this camera really does get good zoom. Let's take a look at the full moon. See if we can zoom in. I'll take a picture of it. That sometimes works better.